Okay, in this one we're going to be factor trinomials using the grouping method. All right. So the method of grouping, factoring by grouping, can be used to help factor trinomials of the form, and this is of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. For example, 2x squared plus 5x plus 3. This is just an example, okay? So we will proceed as follows. 1. We find that the product AC now, okay? In this problem here is as follows. So first thing, you need to identify what is A, B, and C. If you notice here, the A is the 2, the B is the 5, and the C is the 3. So identify them. A equals 2, B equals 5, and C equals 3. If this was a negative 5, then the value of B would be negative 5. Okay? So we find that the product of AC, okay, in this problem will be what? Well, AC is actually, you notice A times C, which is 2 times 3, will give us 6. Okay, this number here, this number is called the key number. This is the key number. Very important, take note of this. Next, to find two numbers whose product is AC, which gives us 6 now, and whose sum is 5. Alright, since the numbers must have a positive product because it's a positive 3, right, we consider only positive factors of 6. The correct factors are 2 and 3 then. So let's see. Positive factors of 6. Okay, so we're gonna go with the factors. The correct factors are then 2 and 3. So let me write it here. Positive factors of 6 are going to be 1 times 6, 6, 2 times 3, 6. Sum of the factors of 6. 1 plus 6 gives me 7, 2 plus 3 gives me 5. Alright, use the factors 2 and 3 now as coefficients of two terms to be placed between 2x squared and 3. Alright, so what does that mean? It simply means that we will take now, and we write this. Consider that we continue the step here. We put 2x squared on positive 3. We'll be writing in between 2x plus 3x if those are the correct combination. Alright, because this 2 will give us the middle term, which is then 5x. Right, so those are possible values. So now remember, we did this gave us positive 6, and so when we multiply the two middle terms, and when we multiply this, the A and the C gives us the 6, and this gives us the 5. So now by grouping now, you now have 4 terms. Consider these two terms here. Right, what do they both have in common? They have in common 2x. So let's put out the 2x here. So we put 2x gives me x here plus 1. And what does these two have in common? They both have 3 in common. So we put here x plus 1. So now the two common terms here are x plus 1 and x plus 1. So we can put x plus 1 at the beginning and put 2x plus 3 at the end. And that's our solution for this one here. Let's go over this one here. This is considering that you already have understood the previous factoring methods. Alright, so we are going to factor out this into two binomials. We know that the product of AC now, we already know what our AC here gives us 6, right? But when we add these two, will give us the middle term, which is 5. So that's a possible combination. So we do that. We take positive 2 and positive 2x and positive 3x. When we combine them, we look at them. What do they both have in common? What do they both have in common? Now, some of you may say, but sir, how do I know that 2x goes here and 3x goes here? Very well, excellent question. Now, what will happen if I get the 3x here and I put the 2x here, will I get back the same answer? Well, it should. So let's prove it. 2x squared plus 3x plus 2x. Alright, now what we are doing here is that we're trying to see if there's anything that will justify when do I put the small number at the front or the big number at the front. There's no such there's no such rule. Okay, so long as you get the possible combination, that's the combination which you're going to put at the front. So what do these two terms have in common? They both have in common x. So put x here, and I put 2x plus 3. And what does these two terms have in common? I'm going to give you 3 seconds to think about it. What does 2x and 3 have in common? 3, 2, 1. Excellent. If you chose the number 1, you're perfectly right. The only factor which is common here is 1. So therefore we put 2x plus 3. Now notice 2x plus 3, 2x plus 3. So we can put 2x plus 3 and then we put x plus 1 and we end up with the same solution. The only difference is that the 2x is at 2x plus 3 is at the front compared to this one, but it's the same thing because 3 times 2 is the same thing as 2 times 3. So this is okay. All right, so that's factoring by grouping. Okay, let's try our next one. Next example, I have 10x squared plus 13x minus 3. We'll express the middle term 13x of the trinomial as the sum of the two carefully chosen terms for the negative 3. We want to produce an equivalent 4-term polynomial that can be grouped by grouping. Since a here is equals to 10, b here is equals to 13, and c here equals to negative 3, we can see that if we say a times c, which is 10 times negative 3, that gives us negative 30. We now find two factors of negative 30 now, whose sum is 13. What are two factors of 30 whose sum is 30? Two such factors are 15 and negative 2. Such factors are 15 and negative 2. That's the only two factors of 30. Okay, factors of 30, which will give us a negative a positive 13. If we say positive 15, take away, plus a negative 2. Okay, so those are two values which we'll be using. So let's go. We now come back here again and we put 10x squared plus 15x minus 2x minus 3. That's our combination. Let's zoom in there a little bit so you have that. These two terms have something in common, 5x. So we put here 5x, 10x squared divided by 5x, that gives us 2x. 15x divided by 5x, that gives us 3. These two terms have something common. What's that? Negative 1. Excellent. So we put that. Negative 2x divided by negative x, 2x. Negative 3 divided by negative 1, positive 3. So now we bring down 2x plus 3 and 5x minus 1. Okay, let's go over it again. We were given this polynomial, this trinomial here. So we identify a, b, and c. A is a 10, b is a 13, and c is a negative 3. We now say a times c gives us negative 30. Alright? What are the factors of 30? Well, we have 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 6 and 5. Which one of those combinations will give us a positive 13? The only way how we can get a positive 13 is that if we say 15 plus a negative 2. That's the only way. So you will be, this is considered that you already know the other methods. So this gives us 15 plus negative 2, which is positive 13, and we end up with a positive 13 in the middle by saying 15x minus 2x. Now we have a 4 term. Okay, polynomial. So now we could factor by grouping and we end up with this, and that's our solution for that particular problem there. Okay, let's try our next example. Our next example we have here, we put here example, and I have 12x to the fifth minus 17x to the fourth plus 6x to the third. Don't worry about this type of problems. These problems are much easier compared to those smaller ones, because this one here you could factor out something in common. Now, first of all, we will factor out the GCF. What's common to all of them? The GCF is x to the third first. So let's factor out that. When we factor out that out, we end up with x to the third, which is 12x to the second minus 17x plus 6. Look how simple that problem looks now. Okay, then we'll factor the resulting trinomial using the grouping method. So forget about the x to the third for right now. I'm not saying to get rid of it. Just imagine that that's the only problem which you are seeing. So the first step is to factoring any polynomial is to factor out the GCF. Right? First we factor out the GCF, which is the x cubed, and we end up with this. Okay, now to factor this out, now we need to find two integers whose product is, okay, so we put here a, which is 12, b, negative 17, and c, which is 6. 12 AC equals 12 times 6, which is equals to 72. Okay, now we need to find two factors, right, whose sum is negative 17, but two factors of 72 whose sum is negative 17. Two such numbers are factors of 72 whose sum is negative 17 are negative 8 and negative 9. Those are the only two factors, okay, which will give us a negative 17. So the complete factorization now, before we reach that, let's go back to this one here. We put here x to the third. We now say 12x minus 8x, this is squared, sorry about that, and then minus 9x plus 6. Continue breaking this up. What do they both have in common? 4x, that gives me 3x minus 2, and here what they both have in common? A negative 3, which will give us 3x minus 2. Why does this become negative? Because a negative times a negative will give me back a positive. Alright, so we continue again. We put 3x minus 2, because they both have in common, and then times 4x minus 3. This is the complete factorized value of this trinomial here. So remember, you factor out something that they both all have in common.